Maybe his job is beating people up. The guy needs a hip. I don't think you have much to worry about. You might want to ask him. Maybe he's on medication and he just like doesn't quite know what he's doing sometimes. That's a whole other issue. I gotta go trade. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pro Trade Room Plus and the CPI report. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the trading director for 10-Minute Trades. Please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so please trade carefully. And I want to welcome everyone who's watching us on YouTube this morning. Thanks for joining, and let's get started. Let's get ready to rumble. All right. So we got our webcam going. Everything seems to be working this morning. This is live for futures, Mason. We don't trade Forex, we trade futures. So you could convert it to futures into Forex. You know, if you're trading some of the pairs, we're trading the YM this morning and we're looking at bonds, dollar futures, or uh, the dollar futures move on this. Dollar euro pairs moves on this. Virtually every instrument under the sun will move on this news event. That's the reality. It's a very important event, and almost every instrument moves. All right, everyone can hear me and you can see the charts just fine. So just give me a heads up that you're out there so I know people are alive. All right, I first thought I would show everyone the news elements that we're looking at this morning. Nothing out of the ordinary. We have our Thursday jobless claims and we have our CPI looking at 3.4% on the year over year and on the month over month looking at 3.1 year over year and zero point 0.1 on the month over month. Also, the jobless claims will be important, not as important as CPI. They're expecting 236,000, looks like 236,000 jobless claims. So it's almost always CPI. Very often it trades with Thursday jobless claims. Sometimes they switch them up and PPI
Secured
trades
overnight
on
financing
Thursday,
rate 5.34% July 10th,
but this is
unchanged
a
from
pretty
July the
normal,
9th.
nothing really out of the ordinary today, other than you have to remember the brokers are raising their margins for futures. So it is considered a high volatility and definitely a high risk event. And in fact, last month, we have a great, I
Okay, welcome
really
everyone
believe
to
we have
Pro
a
Trade
great
Room
setup.
Plus. We're here for course
And
CPI.
quite a few people made money last month. And quite a few people, quite a few people did not get filled. We did not get filled. It was a
I did not
fabulous
get
move.
filled. No fill.
And normally, if you don't get a fill,
Too much
it's
volatility,
usually
folks.
related
No
to
fill
liquidity
on the
or
YM.
just orders
Good
sometimes
news
dry up
because inflation
at
is
the
tiny
exact
So
bit
moment
Redfin
lower.
that
reports
news
Everything's
US
is
a
home
tiny
sale
released.
bit
prices
lower.
hit a record
And
That's
high for
why
the
I
as
ninth
a
don't
straight week
trade
byproduct,
on
at
what I
when
think is going to
that
happen.
happens, it's not
I
that
did
common,
$397,482.
not
but
get
it's common
filled. You
enough
can't tell
that
if
it's
bonds
not
would
a
have worked
complete
on
surprise when it happens.
a breakout
All
on
right.
SIM. It looked like the
It's
move was
common enough.
perfect. I did not get filled on my YM. Anybody else have that issue?
What's interesting
Anyone
to
else have
note
that
is
issue
the
live
quality of the
with
move.
no
It was a
fill?
very fast move.
And it's
And
just,
also bonds. We have a
it
setup
happens.
for
I've seen it
ZN.
happen before.
Bonds had an
No
excellent,
fill.
excellent move last month. So last month was one of those, all the breakouts were perfect months. It's a great month
I
to be
did not
trading
get
over any
filled.
report that
No
reacts that
fill.
way.
Too much volatility,
It
folks.
was just
No
an
fill
excellent,
on the
everything
YM.
worked.
Good news because
And, I'm
inflation
using
is
the
a tiny
term
bit lower.
everything
Everything's a
was
tiny bit lower. That's why I don't.
the history of our CPI report is that it's a difficult report. Okay. I might have just got the instruments incorrect on the WMM bill. That's the honest truth. The final word is always the DMM, always. So just so you understand from a time frame period how it works, the schedule gets done very early, more than a week in advance. So the WMM is definitely subject to more changes than any other document. The DMM sometimes will test hours before an event. So the DMM, we try to make sure the DMM is as up to the second as possible. But every now and then, I just don't get it right. I mean, that's the truth. But the DMM is the final word. That's got our setups, and that's definitely what we're interested in trading. Which is better, I think, very honestly, on CPI. Right now, there's not a better. It's a hard report to trade. It's like we said, the brokers are raising rates. It's a report that has extreme risk, especially when you see brokers raising more margins. It's because the report has the potential for extreme volatility and for out of the ordinary market movement. That's honestly what it means when the brokers do that. It's not to be taken lightly. So if it means that if you have a 20 tick stop, it could be an 80 tick stop because the market could move so fast that your stop could quadruple. It's possible. These are the elements of news trading that create our risk. So it's something you have to absolutely be aware of. That first off, a stop value is not a guarantee. If you have a stop of 30, that's not the market saying you're guaranteed to get out of the market with a 30 tick stop. It just does not work that way. It's like driving a car going real fast, and you know how you put on the brakes, but you might not stop instantly? I think that's not a bad analogy for the market. You might skid X numbers of feet, right? It's not a bad analogy. Unfortunately, nothing is guaranteed. So you want to trade the very risky reports, understanding what the risk could be. Okay. And of course, there are ways to reduce risk. You could use micros. You could not trade. Not trading is not unreasonable. Nobody's saying you have to trade every report. There's plenty of reports that don't have the level of risk that the CPI report has. So those are just some things I would definitely think about. The news I'll keep off to the side today because I want to be able to look at all the charts. So I'm going to trade ZB in my Buell Knox account. Fully understanding that anything goes in a CPI report. So our ZN setup is a breakout trade and it triggers at 8:29:58 Eastern time. All right. If you're new, you want to trigger your local time. So if you're in California or you're not on the East Coast, don't trigger at my time. You want to trigger your local time. Otherwise, your trade might not fire off when you want it to. So we've got a bracket of 12 and we've got position size 1 is a 1. That means I have a position with one contract and then I have a second position with another contract. And then I have a target of 7 ticks and 16 ticks. Targets are not in stone. You do not have to do the exact targets. All right. That's just the way it is. Targets are not, it has to be this exact number. Targets can range. Targets can range. Now, if you make your target huge, absolutely plan on managing your way out of a trade. Meaning, sometimes if your targets are small, the trade could take place, hit all your targets, and it actually behaves completely automatic, completely automated. But if you make your target very big where it's not going to get hit, then you're going to have to handle and manage the trade behavior, the stop movement, if you move your stop, whether you want to shrink your target or expand your target. All right. If my first target gets hit, I'm going to use the feature in the software called Target One Stop Move. It'll move my stop to break even -2. And our stop is 12 ticks. I'm going to scroll down into the setup and I'm going to label this ZN, and then I'm going to apply it, and I'm going to put my time on 0 for a second and just look at my chart with brackets on it. If I enable the trade with 0 time,
Order submitted.
it'll show me my brackets. You notice it's got one bracket right at the high of the day. I think we're in a pretty
Order
quiet
canceled.
market right now. Bonds have not, from 6 p.m. last night, bonds are not very up or very down. Now I'm going to put my time back to 8:29:58, and my bond trade is almost ready. I'm going to choose my trading account. That's going to be Buellnox. And then I'm going to apply it and OK it and enable it. But before I do that, I'm going to put my charts on Buellnox so that I see the orders when they take place, if they take place. So my bond trade is set up. I want to be on ZN, so thank you for waking me up. But you want to know the truth, the ZB would be perfectly fine also. I was doing some testing this morning. ZB is higher risk. It's got lower volatility than ZN, but any of the bonds are tradable, ZB, ZN, and ZF. They all would be fine. So I'll double check my brackets one more time just because I need to. Thanks for the heads up. Wow. Years ago, I could never do anything wrong in the trade room without being corrected. It has not been that way for years. And I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying that years ago, I don't know if we had a more experienced group of traders or if people just paid closer attention to what I was
Order
doing.
submitted.
I'm not really sure. There's our brackets.
Order
But
canceled.
very honestly, I could not get away with making a mistake, which was great because I make plenty of mistakes. I'm human. I'm a human being, and human beings make mistakes. 8:29:58 is my trigger. Bracket is 12. The stop is 12. Those are the key numbers, all right, for our bond trade. And I'm getting my charts back to Buellnox. Now my bonds are ready. And then we also have a YM setup. The YM setup worked very well last month for the people that got filled. Okay. Everyone who got filled had a very nice YM trade last month. So it does have a big bracket. It's got a 40 tick bracket. That's a pretty big bracket, but it also has the potential to move over 100 ticks on this report. So let's see what we've got here. So we've got JOBB version 11. It's a breakout trade, triggering also at 8:29:58. The bracket is 40. And again, remember, the brokers have raised the margins. We've got targets of 30 and 70. And that 70 is not that, in my opinion, it's not that big. This report could move 130 ticks. It's possible. It is possible. And our stop is 45 ticks. And then again, I'm using the target one stop move, break even. I'll just move to break even if it hits my first target. And then I label all my trades so I can differentiate them. YM breakout, BRK. And then I'll also check the brackets by setting the time to 0.
Order submitted.
And it calculates. So there's our brackets. The YM down somewhat this morning.
Order canceled.
And, you know, we're not trying to guess what the news is. We don't know if it's going to be up or down. We have increased the bracket, David. Absolutely have increased the bracket. It was 30 last month. There's a man who pays attention. And we increased the bracket because it just barely survived one of our tests and one of our trades. So if you have an instrument that might move over 100 ticks, I think that you can give up 10 ticks of profit to have a safer setup. That's why we have a bigger bracket. Now, if you wanted to be a little safer, and let's say you just wanted to trade one contract, you can do that. And what you could do is the bracket stays the same, the stop stays the same. Position size 1 is a 1. Position size 2 would be a 0. Okay. Position size 2 would be a 0. And then you've got to make a decision about your stop. Sorry, about your target. The stop stays the same. It's 45. When you trade one position, it's sometimes harder because you have to decide, well, what should the target be? So, you know, we've done a lot of studying on this report. It moves pretty big. You could make a 75, 80 tick target, for instance, right? And then what if the market moves 50 ticks and then it changes direction? Wouldn't that be a shame? Because if you had a 2-target trade and your first target was 29, you would have hit your first target and you would have had a winning trade. So there's a feature in the software. If the market moves, for instance, 40 ticks, I can move my stop to break even plus 28 ticks. And that way you could trade one contract. If you get a decent move in your direction, but not as far as your target, you might be able to protect some profit if it changes direction. So
At
if the market
8:30 a.m.
moves
Eastern
40
Time, we
ticks
get
in my
US CPI
favor,
data year
the
on year.
theory here
Forecast
is the stop
3.1%
will
on the
move
prior,
to plus 28
3.3%, with a range of
above entry,
3.5% to
and you'll make
3%.
28
CPI
ticks.
month on month. Forecast 0.1%. On the prior,
So I'm
0%, with a
actually going
range
to
of
trade for
0.2% to
low risk
0%. Core CPI year on year.
just
Forecast
because, you know, we're
3.4%.
here to
On the prior,
teach.
3.4%, with a range of 3.5% to 3.2%.
And today
US
I'm
core
going to teach
CPI
a little
month
bit
on
of low
month.
risk. So we've
Forecast
got a bracket of 40,
0.2% on the prior,
one position,
0.2%, the
position
range of
size 1.
0.3% to
Don't
0.1%.
choose my exact
Weekly
target.
US initial
Choose a
jobless
target
claims.
between
Forecast
whatever you want,
235K
anywhere
on the
between
prior,
30 and 100.
238K.
Okay.
And
The
US
stop
continued
should be
jobless claims.
45.
Forecast
And
1.86
then
million on the prior
let's say you chose
1.858
a
million.
30 tick target. Then I would do something like if the market moves 20 ticks, move my stop to break even plus 10. And that way you'd protect the little profit if the market changes direction. All right? So that's how I'm going to trade it. My chart is set up. YM breakout. Everybody check your time sync, please. Make sure my time is back. Everything is set. One position. Now to check your time, hang on. I'm seeing a strange message on YouTube. I want to thank everybody on YouTube, by the way, for coming. If you'd hit the like button, we'd really, really, really like that. That helps us a lot. How do you put your computer, make sure your computer's in sync? I've been using the pre-trade checklist, which everyone can download from the Room Drive folder on the taskbar of the trade room. The pre-trade checklist has a link. Check time sync. Visit www.timeiz. Click it, allow it. It'll open a window and it'll tell you if your time is exact or not. If your time is not exact, also on the Room Drive taskbar, there are some programs in there, D4 Time and PT Sync. Download those programs. They will help you to put your computer in sync. Don't wait till 4 minutes before the trade to check if you're in sync. Do it before you get into the room. All right? So that my brain is filled with all the cartoons I watched when I was a kid. Everybody should read what Chantal is saying because that's why we change our setups. All right? That's why we change our setups. Let's take a look at November of 23. What were we doing in November of 23 on CPI?
Okay, welcome everyone to the Pro
Why am I
Trade Room
trading
Plus
just one
Core
contract?
CPI.
Because this report
My name is Lee
has a
Goldstein.
history of being difficult to trade and being inconsistent because the market has responded very differently over time
ticks. I want to
to this
protect
report. We were
at
trading
least 10
gold
ticks of profit. And I'm thinking
and
59.
believe it or not, the euro. We do not do a lot of euro trading. The euro can be awfully whippy.
Okay. Right now it's calm again.
Gold on the
We
right,
have a
euro
decent
was on the
bracket.
left. That was an insane
So
whip.
that was a
Absolutely
crazy,
insane.
insane whipsaw.
At
Okay,
8:30
that's
a.m.
Crazy,
Eastern
the
Time, we get
enemy
US
insane
CPI
of
whipsaw.
data.
a
CPI
breakout
year-on-year
trade.
forecast
That's the
3.1%.
enemy of a
3.1%. On the
Reboot
breakout
prior
because I
trade.
know it's got a
3.3%,
fake
with a
order
range
there.
of 3.5% to
We do
3%.
not want to see
CPI
that kind of
month-on-month
behavior.
forecast
All right. That
0.1%
we
on the
don't want
prior
to see.
0%, with a range of 0.2%
Then
to
if we look at
0%. Core
January,
CPI year-on-year forecast 3.4% on the
hello,
prior 3.4%, with a range of 3.5% to
January we
3.2%.
were ES
Core CPI
and ZN.
month-on-month Forecast 0.2%.
When
On
we
the
have a
prior
report
0.2%,
that
with a range of
every month
0.3% to
there's
0.1%.
been different
And US
setups,
initial jobless
it's
claims
because the
forecast
report's somewhat
235k.
inconsistent.
On the prior
Okay, so a
238k.
beautiful bond
And US
trade, even
continued
though there
jobless
was a
claims
crazy
forecast
whipsaw,
We were
1.86
very
million.
just as
On the
lucky
prior
to hit our
crazy,
target
1.858
just
and
million.
then
as
change
crazy as
direction really
last month.
fast. And then the
Chantal, do you
ES,
think
we were
that
just
trap trade
simming
would have
the ES.
filled in real life?
And the ES, we were
Okay,
testing
so
a
a
trap
beautiful
trade,
bond trade,
which
even
So
though
let me
there
use
was
is
a
a
the commentary for
whipsaw,
crazy
this release.
whipsaw,
Unit
which is
credit say
what
we
you
expect
want to
just
headline
as
see
CPI
crazy.
inflation
for
for
a
only
trap trade.
0.1% month on month in
All
June,
right,
which
let's
would take
just
the year on
pay
year rate
attention
down
to
to
the market now
3.1% from 3.3%. Core CPI probably
because we're
rose by
getting
another
close.
0.2% month on month, with the year on year rate likely unchanged at 3.4%. The headline index will be
Bonds
weighed down by a 4% month on
in
month
Buell
fall in
Knox on the
gasoline
right,
prices, while food price inflation likely
YM
remained
on the
contained.
left, just
Core
one
goods price
contract, so I'm going to
inflation was
pay
probably broadly
very
flat
close
again,
attention
as
to
the
my
ISM
YM
manufacturing
trade,
index's prices paid sub-index fell
because
back to
if I have to manage
52.1
it,
in June from 57 in
I
May.
might
Used
have
and
to
new
manage
car
it, is
prices
what I
likely
mean to
fell.
say.
Core services price inflation remains high, but is easing gradually. Housing, 43% of the core CPI basket inflation, is easing,
I'm
but
also
it will take time
listening
for lower market rents to filter through to average
in my
rents.
headset
Non-housing core services inflation should continue easing
to
gradually as the
Financial
labor
Juice
market
Pro. They
softens
have a
and as
news
firms find it
squawk
harder to
box
pass
that's
on input
excellent.
prices rises to customers.
And we're using investing.com to see the news results, right? We're using as many tools as we can to help us. In general, this is usually a pretty quick event. So we've got 2 minutes. No idea if inflation is going to be up, down, or as expected. I mean, many people don't believe any of the numbers anyway. They don't think the government tells the truth about anything. I don't even know what I believe anymore. There's a part of me that likes to think that the numbers are real. However, everybody knows the problem with inflation is that once prices are raised, they don't tend to come back down. Try buying a house.
1 minute remaining.
The
I'll use the
housing
US
market
CPI year on year.
is absolutely nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I look at the town I used to live in, and houses that I used to live in are selling for like 3 times what we paid. And these are houses that are not, I mean, they're nice, but they're not special. And the average person really struggles to afford them. Okay, we've got 20 seconds.
Ten seconds.
Our brackets will show up.
Order submitted.
Again, no fill.
3%, lower than forecast,
No fill
3.1%.
on
CPI month on
both.
month,
No
minus
fill on
0.1%,
both.
minus 0.1%,
So I
lower
have
than
to
forecast,
cancel.
0.1%.
Order
Core
canceled.
CPI year on year, 3.3%,
Canceling both.
3.3%,
That's a
lower than
spurious
forecast,
order. It
3.4%.
doesn't
Core
exist.
CPI month on month, 0.1%,
That order does not exist.
0.1%, lower than forecast, 0.2%.
And that did not seem to
Seeing
be that
downside color,
fast
upside
of
in
a
stocks.
move.
US initial
So I'm
jobless claims
extremely disappointed that I
222K,
did not get filled.
222K. That's lower than forecast.
Did not get
235K.
filled. I
And
did
US
not set
continued
up
jobless
a
claims,
second
1.852
trade.
million, 1.852 million.
The
Lower
news
than
is a
forecast,
bit lower than
1.86 million.
expected. It's very good news. Very good
US
news.
short-term interest rate
And the
futures
job
rise after
news
CPI data as traders boost
is
bets on
not
Fed rate
good
cuts.
news. There's less claims. They would prefer more. They would prefer more claims. But the general news is good. The general news is good. I got no fills on both my accounts. I didn't get filled in my Dual Knox account, and I didn't get filled in my cash account. Did anybody else not get filled? Anybody else not get filled? I'm just curious. Did anyone else not get filled?
So the pound rises
David
to a
got
one-year
filled
high
on
against the
Buell
dollar
Knox.
after US CPI
I mean,
data.
not getting filled happens. It happens. But I'm glad everybody made money. Everybody made money. That's the main thing that we care about. If I didn't get filled, it's no big deal as long as you all made money.
And rate futures
Everybody's
price in an
typing in that they made
85%
money.
chance of a September Fed rate cut after CPI data, up from about 70%
And I have
before.
like really fast internet. So let's do a quick
The US Super Core
internet
CPI,
test.
4.651%,
Let's do a quick internet test.
4.651% year on year.
Just for fun. All right. Now, MYM does not move the same as YM, Sander. Not the same. I would trade one contract of YM
So
before
US
I
2 to
would
10-year
trade,
yields
me
fall at least
personally,
10 basis
I
points on
would
the day.
trade one contract of the big rather than trading the micros on these volatile reports. I don't like the way they move because we've seen this a couple of times.
And super core inflation
We've
month
seen
on
it a
month,
couple of
minus
times. No, Arthur, that's
0.154%,
not
minus
the reason.
0.154%.
A lot of people got filled. It's just
So after this release,
it's just the
DXY
reality of Buell Knox,
in
their
pre-market
data
trading down
feed.
0.56%
And I
at
didn't get filled on
104.4,
cash either.
and the S&P
So
500 up
it just happens, Arthur. It
0.38%
just
at
happens. We see it.
5,661.
We see it. Maybe I'm on my wrong network. Let's take a look. Am I on my wrong network? I have multiple networks. Let's do a speed test. Let's do an Ookla. And I'm a gig. It's not my network speed. So it's just bad luck if you don't get filled. It just happens. It just happens. Looks to me like everybody made money. So very good. Kudos to everybody. And I'm glad to see it. Everybody made money. Our multiple
And
setups
traders lift
have had
ECB
two
easing
fabulous
bets after
months,
US CPI and
two
see 20
fantastic
basis
months
points
in a
in
row.
September.
So very, very glad for that because this is
And we have
a
posted the
risky
US CPI
report.
June
It
report
is
on
a
the feed
risky
for all those
report.
interested.
So any questions? Any questions? Let's look at the video. And we have another couple of big reports this week. PPI is tomorrow. That's another big report. WASD is tomorrow. Another good report. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pro Trade Room Plus and the video from today. Bonds on the right, YM on the
Noting
left.
gold also jumping as much as 1.2% after the drop in US consumer prices.
Very honestly, I don't see why that didn't fill. It wasn't that fast. I'm a little bit disappointed that that did not fill. Bonds were pretty quick, but
So Fed swaps price in more easing in 2024 after the June CPI, and traders see 25%
just
chance
looking
of a
at
third
bonds,
25 basis point Fed cut in 2024.
bonds were pretty quick. It was way past my order. So I could accept bonds. I can't accept the YM. Nevertheless, not not a great reversal, right? It took quite a few minutes to get a reversal out of that. Now, finally, it's reversing a little bit. The market, I think, is going to like this news. I think it's going to like this news. Now, if you'd be kind enough, I have a webinar Saturday. Send me some of your screenshots, please, if you made money.
So Treasury
Please
yields
send me some of
extending
your
the fall.
screenshots
10-year yield
to
now
help
down 8
at
basis points at
TenMinuteTrades.com.
4.202%.
If you want to keep getting good setups from us, send me some screenshots. Okay? I need them. And I want to thank everybody on YouTube for watching. That was a lot of fun. Most of our members made money on that report. In the YouTube is a link for joining us. So if you like what you see, you should join with us. Come into the trade room. There's no delay. So I'm going to close our YouTube stream and thank everybody on YouTube for joining with us. Thank you very much.